Hi, this is Bernadette Valinado, and this is My Learning. Project based learning is a method that is intriguing to me. My outcomes in PBL are to create a foundation in philosophical arguments. What are the notions of experience and how they were employed in experiential education? What are the foundations in different theoretical model for project based learning? What are the characteristics of good PBL environment? And how will I theoretically employ the project based learning principles into my own practice? Further, I have explored the assessment practice and tools used in project based learning. Finally, I was interested as to the outcomes of my project proposal and if I can relate them to other subjects or other schools. The following paragraphs are the explanations of how I, however incomplete, answer these questions. At the course beginning, we discuss what the experience is through philosophical lenses. Beyond Learning by Doing by J. Roberts looked at definitions of experience from a romantic, a pragmatist, a critical, a normative, and a democratic viewpoint, and how their notions were employed in the field of experiential education. To be honest, I had a hard time understanding Roberts' way of explaining the philosophies. I had to check the meanings of various words and reread the text more than once. My takeaway from this book was that these approaches are connected to ignite the power of learning by doing in the educational process. The following philosophers have their own perspective of learning, experiences, and the power of doing. In Emile, Rousseau says that an individual is independent and active. He is to learn from experience and by the consequences of his actions rather than from other people or books. For Thoreau, direct experiences in nature become educative because it teaches an individual how to think. Eaton, in 1999, defines experiential learning as a change in an individual that results from reflection on direct experience and results in new abstractions and applications. To Dorothy Lee, the central aim of education ought to be to provide opportunities to learn from experience before learning from labels. For Dewey, the notion of experience equates to the hypothesis testing sequence where the experience is the action in the form of doing in the world and the reflection is in the form of cumulative and contingent knowledge gained over time. From the articles about transdisciplinary approach, rigor, and guest speakers such as Nancy Janelle, Susie Boss, and Caleb Rashad, talked about the ultimate goal of education was to make students identify with their life's purpose and to become transformative citizens. With all of these notions of experience and approaches in education, I came to realize how important it is to consider the learning experience that I will deliver and share with my students. I have to keep in mind that they have their innate curiosity of things and the potential to understand how activities relate to their existence. I will make a transfer of meaningful information that sparks their inquisitive minds and not create a miseducative or non-educative experiences that might distort their perception of life and learning. The banking approach by Paulo Freire is a warning not to devalue my students' lived experience. Instead, I will help them open their mind in praxis and to transform the world. I will connect lessons with real-world context and have students develop projects that are beneficial for our school and for our community. For example, I will start the discussion on local issues in our school and the community or visiting local museums or exhibitions, parks and zoo, or identifying local social activities to spur the inquisitive minds of learners. I believe in the power of learning, developing and treating each child as an active agent of learning and of change. Roberts wrote that projects can heighten the power of experience in the educational process. According to Dewey, it is important to engage students in purposeful project activities and to allow some degree of student voices and choice, along with the teacher's role of framing the learning context. In PBL, the teacher designs the learning environment that engages the student in thinking, sustained inquiry, and reflection. The teacher leads the students to pose questions, to find resources, to interpret information, and to report findings. Dewey's ideas informed John Lorimer, John Mergendoller, and Susie Boss' concept of the gold standard PBL in setting the standard for project-based learning. PBL, according to the authors, gained popularity as a new approach to teaching and learning in the 21st century. From my research for my podcast, Pear Tree Elementary in Vancouver, Envision Schools in California, USA, and New Tech Network in USA are among the schools and organization that believe in the PBL methodology. They use PBL as an instructional core for the students to acquire academic content, leadership skills, and deeper learning competencies such as reflection and growth mindset. The schools empower and prepare students to be self-directed problem solvers and collaborators. They believe that PBL is student-centered, interdisciplinary, collaborative, promotes active learning, and prepares students for modern employment. These characteristics of a learning community is mentioned in What Schools Could Be by Ted Dintersmith. He has written different stories about teachers implementing PBL in their classes. They created high student involvement and social engagement, high improvement in academic and behavior performances, and transformative and purposeful outcomes. Dintersmith sums up the elements of a powerful learning environment where students thrive. It says purpose, essentials, agency, and knowledge, or PEAK. I will take this as the backbone of my future teaching. The highest element is the concept of purpose. It serves as a driving force and creates a ripple effect on the students' engagement and growth mindset. Students thrive when they make a real-world impact. They can make a difference, and most importantly, they are respectfully supported by their teacher and in the school's community. I have taught for 11 years and worked mostly with early year students. I have used projects and field trips as supplements to my class studies. Now I learned how to use projects as major vehicles for teaching content standards. I can start work with the students' interest and passion and foster the inquisitive manner of exploring themes and concepts. I will connect and engage closely alongside my students rather than direct them. Then, in a cooperative manner, my students and I will build meaningful relationships to the concepts through student-centered teaching. I have learned that PBL can take place both inside or outside classrooms and use interdisciplinary subjects. Glenys McLeod clearly illustrates the PBL environment for her math class. Through her explanation in our class discussion, I have learned to apply quantitative reasoning in my project proposal. That is, by collecting first-hand data from interviews, then organizing them using tally marks, charts, lists, or graphs to answer questions and present accurate information. One example of PBL taking place outside the classroom was from Sid Williamson's class. They went to the school's backyard because the students were curious as to know why there were no birds living in their yard. She had given the students an opportunity to research bird migration and habitats to answer their own inquiry. I think it was very practical and efficient to utilize local resources within the school vicinity and create a rich lesson plan. PBL makes teachers and students creative and appreciative of their own environment. Project-based learning is an excellent way to differentiate instruction in a full inclusion classroom, especially with students with diverse learning abilities. In a PBL assessment, it requires both traditional and authentic practices. At this moment, we have not discussed this topic in class yet, but it will be. The following assumptions are based on the Larmer et al. Reading. On page 121 states that PBL uses formative assessments to track students' performance in meeting targeted learning outcomes, protocols for peer critic, and criterion reference rubrics for success skills. Examples of the assessment vehicles used in PBL are student portfolios, reflections, checklists, and presentations to measure students' understanding and competencies. I remember when I used rubrics for assessing students' show and tell presentations and role play activities. The presentation-specific rubrics guided me and my students in assessing their presentation in terms of voice, eyes, body, presentation aids, organization of thoughts, and response to audience questions. My students had written reflections for projects, field trips, and other activities describing things they have pondered. My students had individual portfolios where it served as evidences of classwork and progress over time. These portfolios showcased a variety of students' products throughout the school year. It included artwork, reflections, journal entries, photos, and writing samples, among others. My students were involved in evaluation of entries so they could reflect on their progress as well. One of these course requirements was to make a project proposal. Working through this assignment, I was able to personally go through a rigorous amount of work that a student will undergo in a PBL class. Though the project was not fully done, I accomplished the initial steps and gained insights about my own competencies. I can see how it developed my organizational skills, my communication skills, and my research skills in a relatively short period of time. This is the most important aspect of using PBL, examining oneself. It is the ability to know your strengths, your interests, and your passion, and to do something about it, and to fulfill something that is worth living for as an individual and as a part of society. As Louise said, education is a process of living and not a preparation for future living.